to another lesson on Windows PowerShell. In this tutorial, I will go over formatting, saving and importing data. For this lesson, instead of using Visual Studio Code ISE, we will be using familiar Windows PowerShell 7 terminal. I have opened the terminal in Administrative Privileges. However, you do not need admin privileges to do all the tutorial activities. I have PowerShell 7.3.6 installed here. You could have any version of PowerShell 7 or even PowerShell 5, and everything we cover today should work just fine. Before we go through the tutorial, I first need to navigate to where all my YouTube files are located. So when I look at my hard drive, I have an iDrive and my files are located under PS7 Tutorial 16 in this folder. To navigate there, as you have already done in the past, you go with CD, which is like change directory. And I want to get into this location and this folder because this is where I want to get into. So what you can do, actually, you can go and copy and paste that location like this, CD PS7 Tutorial 16. However, if you press enter here, what's going to happen is it will return an error. So I'm just going to give you a preview of some of the things that you have to take into account when you're using Windows PowerShell. Because this is a beginner lessons tutorial series. So I'm just giving you some additional information with some of my tutorials. So if I press enter here, it should give you an error message. It will say set location, this parameter tutorial doesn't exist. The reason why that happened, I just want to point out that in PowerShell, if you want to move to a location like this, where the folder name has white space, in other words, a space between terms, for example, PS7, there is a space here, tutorial, there is a space here. The PowerShell cannot differentiate that the fact that this is a single folder, so it goes through and find PS7, try to find PS7. When it doesn't see it, it just drop it off. So it doesn't look for PS7 tutorial 16. Instead, it is just looking for PS7. So if you want to have, if you have a problem like this, just want to give you an overview. What you need to do is you need to put parentheses. So put like parentheses like that. So it's going to color like it differently. So it's going to look at that differently. And now if I press enter, it'll get me to the iDrive PS7 Tutorial 16 folder. This is just a little bit of a tip that I want to give you at the beginning of the tutorial, how to navigate in Windows PowerShell 7 terminal, especially someone who is beginner to Windows PowerShell. If you end up with the error message like the parameter cannot be found, it's most likely maybe you have a folder or a file name with spaces in it, and the PowerShell cannot understand that unless you have this. Because what this is going to tell the PowerShell is go and move the terminal to the iDrive, but instead of just going to PS7 and look for PS7, look for a complete PS7 Tutorial 16 folder, because that's the folder that we are in right here. So now I'm there, we can start our tutorial. So this is just a little bit of a tip that for anybody who is new or beginner to PowerShell and want to move between folders. So I'm going to clear the screen. That's CLS, and I'm going to go through a few commands that you are familiar with, and we will use some of those commands to look at some data, and we will see how we can also manipulate data. So basically we are looking at formatting, saving and importing data using PowerShell terminal. You can use the same commands on your PowerShell ISE, like such as the Visual Studio Code, but I'm using the terminal because it's much easier for me to demonstrate this. So let's look at the dir command, which is the directory command. This is a familiar command. If I enter dir and press enter, what that's going to give me is a list of all the items contained within the PS7 Tutorial 16 folder, because that's where my PowerShell is right now sitting. So if you look at this, we have 2 folders I have created, test folders, folder test underscore test and test folder, and then we have 3 files, employee, info and names test. Some of them are CSV files, some of them are .text file. And if I minimize this, that's exactly what I have in this folder. I have 2 folders within this PS7 tutorial 16 folder. And then I have 3 files, and that's the 3 files. It gives me a table format, which has the mode, last write time, length, and name. So what the directory command has done here is basically find all the files in that location and then just dump it onto your terminal. If you recall from my previous tutorial, a PowerShell object is something that was created by a developer. So dir is actually a PowerShell object that was created and built in and baked in by Microsoft developers. Remember that objects have names, properties, and methods. I have already covered that on my previous tutorials. Properties describe the object and methods that are, that can be used to action something. So you can perform it on, you can perform certain actions on that particular object. So for example, this directory object have different property names, properties, and methods that can be used to manipulate whatever the data that being shown here. So the reason why the directory command listed these items in a table format, the default object, the default associated with this default properties associated with this object dir basically state that it needs to display in this kind of a format. That's why it dumped everything in that format. However, you can change what you like to see with this if you know what that directory command has. For example, if I type dir and if we use our familiar pipe method or character, remember it's this symbol, the pipe, which I have introduced in the past. We can pipe that into a commandlet such as format wide. So let's do format wide. Now you can actually filter out the output of the default output or output of the directory command into something different, which is by formatting wide. So format wide commandlet is taking the input of the directory object, whatever the output of the directory object is being fed into the format wide commandlet, and now instead of displaying like this, it's just going to display the names of the items listed here. So it's now there's only names. It's not in a table like this. It doesn't have the last write time, etc. It just has the name. So what basically it has done, it just gave me a way to filter out information. This is a way of formatting or filtering data, which you can import or export. You can export into files or use it as an input in your future PowerShell scripts. Right? When you're writing PowerShell script, you can use this pipe command to manipulate output of objects and even commandlets, and then you can use to do certain things. We will look at this pipe character, this pipe method, as we progress through this tutorial, because we're going to use this a lot, and I will show you how it can be used. Another way we can do things with this built-in object that I randomly selected to show you is that if you use the same one, directory pipe into wide format wide, we can also further filter out, instead of using pipe, by using switches. So there are certain switches available. For example, if I put a dash in here and type property, remember you can complete complete certain items in your PowerShell 7 and previous PowerShell versions by hitting the tab. So what I did here is, like you have seen as we go through this, I sometimes type halfway through and suddenly everything shows up like that. That because I'm hitting tab. So with tab, you can sometimes complete a sentence. I complete a statement in PowerShell, which I have already gone through in my previous lectures. So here what I'm doing is I'm taking the directory command, object, I'm feeding that output into the format void commandlet, and I'm filtering using property. But you had to use what property that needs to be filtered out. If you look up here, there are a few properties here: mode, last write time, length, and name. If you enter a property that doesn't exist, it's not going to work. So I know the length exists, for example. So if I go length, and if I type len and then tab it, and it'll automatically fill it out, press enter. Now what happened is just basically displaying this this length information right here in this third column. So we can actually filter out certain things using this type of this type of command. And you can filter out anything else as well. Like you can filter out, for example, last write time, and then it'll just filter out whatever the last write time information available. It just drop this part, it'll drop the table format, it just filter display just like that. We can also format this output as a list. Like if you don't like this way, we can actually put it as a list, all of this information too. For example, I'm just simply going to clear this. If I go dir instead of format void with the pipe command, I can go format list. And if I press enter, what that did compared to our previous command, which is the format void, is to give us a list of all the all the items in there. For example, it contained the name, creation date, last access time, mode, target. It listed in as a list instead of a table. Also notice now when I press a dir pipe command format void, it actually listed the things like as I mentioned in like two columns, even though it's not a table. It's just going to show like this, but in the list one it shows one after another after another after another, and it has more information contained within them. So all of these things can be used to filter out things, etc on your program. In other words, like in here, if you want to pick this item, you need to know which when that item shows up to pick from in your PowerShell script. But in here, if you want to pick something out, you can pick from last write time, mode, etc, right? So that's why maybe the list command may be useful. Sorry, format list commandlet may be useful in certain situation, and format void may be useful in other situation. And having said that, we can also do some of the other things with the format list. What if I do format list and then start using switches just like before? So you're gonna go property. Why don't we do that? Why don't we use the name? Because see, name is a property even in the list. So if you go enter, what that done is basically instead of listing the names like this, format void like this, or the previous one I did, which is if you go property, if I go name, I think name is one of them, and then if I press enter, so this here, like with the format void, just like before, it's just listing everywhere. It's just listing on this side and this side. It's not a table, it's just listing everywhere. But by using the format list command, now it has name and the list, and the name and the property name and what is associated with it. So what I want to drill into your head is that you basically can take an object, take that output into an input using of a commandlet using a pipe, and you can further filter out using switches such as property to get what you want. By looking at it, this basically listed these items. If you want a creation time, for example, which didn't even show up on the table format. If you get the creation time, for example, we can do So list format, creation time. It just listed all the creation times right here. So if you want to sort this thing, you can change sorting methods, etc., etc., which I'm not going to do with this particular object, but we'll do with something else as we move through this lesson. So what if we have lots of data like this doesn't have, I mean, I don't have many folders and files in here. There's like how many in here? 5 items, right? What if I have a lot of data? Like, go through this going to be more of a headache, right? Sometimes. So obviously you can use for loops and while loops and stuff like that, which I'm not going to get into today much. I'll maybe briefly introduce to you that little bit. But even without using for loops and while loops and complex of little bit of complex or like intermediate to higher level PowerShell, as a beginner to Windows PowerShell, you still can do more with some of these commands that are already baked in here. For example, I'm going to clear the screen, and clear screen is CLS, and I'm going to use the one commandlet baked in here called get process. So again, this is something that Microsoft have already put into the Windows PowerShell. And if I press enter, it just listed a whole bunch of processes currently running on my computer. So it has different different process names listed. Mostly process names are associated with companies. So for example, Asus, you will see some Chrome and Microsoft. Firefox. So it shows all the processes currently running on my device, and by default it is a table. It has the CPU usage, ID, process name, some bunch of other information, and this is what the get process will give you. What this has done is, by default, again, it is using a table output. Why is it doing that? Because that's how Microsoft written it. So it use get process. Basically, they have done this. It's called format. This is another commandlet, format table. So this is what it actually has done. Even though we didn't explicitly ask the get process to output to be piped into the format table, by default, because that's what Microsoft has done for the default program, that's what exactly it is. Basically format into a table. So if you use that format table command, look, it's the same thing. See, this is the same as this, the way that it's displayed. If you look at the top, see, get process is same output as get process pipe into a table. Again, I just want to highlight that because of this is the default behavior of that commandlet. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to show you a few more things with get process. So if you go with get process format table, what if I go dash property? Remember, it's a switch. And if I use path, and if I press enter, what that done is basically it gave me every path associated with this, every path associated with these processes. Now you may ask, hey Sanuja, on this table I don't see the path. I see NMP, PM, WS, CPU, ID, and SI and process name. There is no path in here. So how come the get process commandlet, where is it? Commandlet has the path. How come I was able to use the same commandlet to display actual path of the program, such as its C program files, ASUS, blah, blah, blah. Like, where did this path came from? The reason for that is, remember the help command, which I'm not going to go through today because it's going to take up too much time. Basically, you can go to manuals and you can check the help command and see what this get process have. Remember, get process is an object created by Microsoft. It has properties, it has output methods, etc., that you can use to manipulate and extract data. Even though by default the path is not listed in this table up here, right? When you enter the get process, and it doesn't have the path, because I know the path exists. I can actually, as a property, I can actually get the path of that program. So this is possible, and I mean, that's something that you can do with it. In fact, if you go get process path comma, and if I put name, comma ID, comma company, there's command line as well, so company, and what this is going to do, it will list the path, name, ID, and the company for the get process output, and it will show me as a table format. If I press enter, there you go. I know it looks messy, but this can be very useful for some of your program. Now, not just the path we also get a few more information, because I use a switch to get the path, the name, the ID, and the company. So where is company now? Wait a second, company is missing. What's going on? That because of the company is being wrapped in here, because the reason being that the terminal is too small. See, this basically that's what is causing that issue, right? So, well, that's not good, right? Like, I mean, I like this command line now, it's not showing me the company information for this this data set. So what can we do? Well, we know these things exist. As I mentioned, you can use the help command for that. You can watch my previous video on how to do that. But now we can actually use another switch. So you can use multiple switches. So if I put another switch, it's called the auto size. So auto size is a switch that exists. What that's going to do, it's going to make sure within this window, all of this information going to fit in. So if I press enter, that should be a little bit better than what we had before, even though it doesn't look like it. Maybe Microsoft changed it, maybe. So yeah, I mean, a little bit better. So there are few switches like that you can use. I don't think auto size actually work. So this is the thing about making YouTube videos. Sometimes Microsoft change things on the fly. So auto size is a way to actually make sure that it's, you know, like it doesn't go off the screen. But I believe it's already done in the previous one as well. So now just know that, you know, you can use multiple switches. So just like you can use multiple pipes, which I will explain later as we go through, you can also use multiple switches. Another switch I can use, which make it even easier for me to actually read what I have you know, got out of this output, would be to use the group by switch. So I can use the group by switch. So that's another switch we can use. But in this switch, you have to give how we're going to group it. I want to group by company, because I can break down the whole list based on the company, instead of actually trying to find all the Microsoft operation and separate it from rest of it. So if I go group by company, and press enter, what that did, look, now I have again came back to a table format, because that's how this command operates. It's convert that into a table format anyway, because I'm asking for table format here as well. But now it tells you what company belong to what path. See, Microsoft Corporation, and here's this is a Microsoft Corporation, Intel Corporation. If I go up here, we have let's say something else. Finally, VMware. Look at that, because I have VMware workstation and such. Here's VMware operations, processes, and if you go up, Logitech, etc., etc. So it shows the breakdown now. So instead of having a huge list, now this is a little bit more manageable, at least for human eye, to look at all the data. For example, all of these processes are lumped together, and it's actually done by this particular company. That's actually Firefox. Obviously, Firefox could have another company name associated with somewhere else. Look, and you will notice that Microsoft, even ASUS, sometimes show up multiple times. Here, there is a Microsoft process right here. But if I go back down here, there's another Microsoft process down here. And there's another Microsoft process down here between the Intel Corporation and everything. So it's better. You know, sometimes it is not the best either, because now you have to go and find all the items that belong to Microsoft that's spread across this entire output. So can we do one more better? Yes, you can. As you can see, like the company has multiple items showing up for the same company, why not we actually group them? So how do we do that? So we can use a sort method or type or request for the entry here to actually group them. So yes, it does matter where you put the sort. So I'm going to put the sort right here, right after get process. When the get process output is being fed in here, it's going to get fed into the sort instead of format table. So in here, I'm going to enter right here. I'm going to enter sort, and I'm going to put dash property, and then I'm going to put company. And now I'm going to pipe that into format table. So now I have not just one pipe, I have two pipe. I get the get process output, put it into a sorting, and I sort based on the property of the company. So in other words, I'm taking the company, this property right here, this property, not the ID, the company right here. So I'm going to take that property and I'm going to use that to sort it. Once the sorting has been done, I'm going to put it into table format, and then I'm going to do all of this. Now if I press enter, there you go. Oh, sorry. So why not? Yeah, that's actually okay. So now what happened? It got sorted right here. So you have Wacom. All the Wacom items are together here. You should have Firefox items together here. And you should have all the Microsoft. Look at that. How beautiful is that? All of this belong to Microsoft Corporation, and that is under Microsoft Corporation. And this may have been in multiple places. Now it is in one single place under Microsoft Corporation. Now you may ask, okay, Sanuja, can the Microsoft Corporation still show up on multiple places? Yes, you can. The reason for that is sometimes these things, because the way the company is written, it might be slightly different. For example, the Firefox right here have a whole bunch of Firefox term. If the Firefox have listed Firefox company, this is not Firefox, this is ASUS. But you could have, right here. So here the company is listed as ASUS because the processes recognize this as a one single entity and it listed them together. But here it's listed as ASUS. Here ASUS Inc. dot. Here is ASUS Tech Computer Inc. So unfortunately, because companies name the processes differently, all of these are ASUS, the 1, 2, 3, 4. But because a company has listed their company name differently on the processes, it will get broken into this 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. But other than that, or in 5 right here, this is ASUS 2. Other than that, it's a caveat in here. Other than that, you will get all the company, all the processes belong to one company listed together by using our this sort switch property the sort by company. So basically, what we did here, we took the output, sorted by the company, and then took that, put it into format table, as a commandlet. Then we requested to take out path name, get out path name ID company, and then further we group that by company. By doing that, basically group everything together, and it's easy to read, easy to work with, and it's really neat way of displaying or outputting data from Windows PowerShell 7. So I'm going to clear this screen, because next thing we're going to look at is how we can save output of an object or an object or objects into a file. So again, by using the pipe is what we are going to do to do that. So let's look at the get process again. Now, instead of displaying on the screen, I want this output to be piped into a file. So how can I do that? Well, there is a commandlet for that. It's called the out file, and out file has to have a a variable or a statement associated with that. Otherwise, it can just out file randomly. So I need to out this file into text file. So what I'm going to do, dot /, that means it's going to get out right in here into this folder. Look at right on my folder right now, there is nothing in here that says processes. So I'm going to say process, processes.txt. So I type processes, so it's the processes, so it's processes, yeah, processes.txt. So what this is going to do, it's going to take the output of this, pipe into out file commandlet, which will be converting that information into a .txt file. Watch what happened on my folder here. There you go. It created a file called processes.txt. Now, basically, you have everything that is in this, in this output save as a text file here. If I open this text file, you will see that, hey, those are my processes. They are listed as exactly it is. Again, you can use many complex operations to get this output with listed with entire as an entire set of data, like in a different format, like I showed you. But this is just to show you, that's how you can take exit data from one commandlet and put it into a text file. Now, what if I want to I want this information in an HTML format? Because this may be sometimes useless. It's just a text file, right? I don't want this way. I want something that is more useful. Maybe I want it in HTML file. So do I have to go through creating an HTML file by myself, like one at a time? Of course not. You have a commandlet for doing an HTML file. So if I got get processes, instead of doing out file like this, if I go convert to so there are a few items: convert to CSV, HTML, JSON, bunch of other stuff, right? So you can do multiple things. You can convert into different items, but I want to convert to HTML now, just to show you how our HTML look like. So what this is going to do, it will take the output of this and convert that into HTML. If I press enter here, what that's going to do is basically it's going to convert everything into HTML and display on our terminal. I'll show you what I mean by that. It's not going to create a file here because I didn't give a file path or file name here, and I'm not outputting a file here, right? I don't have out file here. So if I press enter here, what it is doing is taking all the processes, converting into HTML format, and then it's just going to dump everything on your PowerShell 7 window, the terminal. So it'll take few seconds because it's a processor intensive thing. There you go. It just basically dump an HTML formatted data set onto your terminal. So look at that. It's a mess. It has the title and head and the body table, and then it has those table columns and everything nicely listed here. But this is still useless because it is not saved to a HTML file. So you have a couple of options. You can obviously copy this whole thing and paste it into a file and save it as HTML. But that's too much work. You can get the Windows PowerShell 7 or PowerShell 5 to save this as an HTML file. So if I clear this screen, if I go back to the same convert to HTML, remember you can have multiple pipe commands. So pipe character. So I'm going to use a pipe character again here, and I'm going to use the out-file, and I'm going to say this one. I'm going to say same thing, processes or processes .html or HTML, doesn't really matter, and press enter. what that's going to do, it's going to create a HTML file right here. It's creating right now that HTML file is 0 kilobyte right now. It's actually in going through. Again, it's a processing intensive thing, so it's going to take some time, and eventually this file will be filled with the data that got displayed on the screen. So it will be properly formatted in HTML, but instead of displaying on the terminal, it will be on a .html or .html file. So it's done. So we know it's done because see, these two appears because I press enter twice. That's why. So now you can open this file in a couple of ways. So you can use the invoke method to open a file. For example, in the past, but this is what I did, right? But you can also open the file using a different way of doing it. Like instead of going to your folder, and you can open it by invoke method. I'm just giving you a little bit of tips here and there. For example, I can go notepad, and if I go .processes.txt, there you go, it opened right here in notepad. So you can actually open it without actually navigating to where your folder is, because you have the ability to do that. So like you can do notepad process.html. That will open the HTML file right here, because that's where we are in the PowerShell on a notepad. You can also open it in your default program using the PowerShell. That's called the invoke method. So invoke commandlet. So if I use invoke, so invoke and then expression. So invoke expression commandlet will open the file with the default program in which is set to run this. So if I go like this and processes.html, it will open Google Chrome, because Google Chrome is set as my default program for this Windows machine. So if I press enter, look at that, it just shows the default program. It used the default program to display my HTML formatted table nicely, easy to read, etc, etc. So I'm just giving you some data, so it's easy for you to look at. So there you go, I'm done that. So I have all the information in both HTML format and .txt format, right? So these are the two things that we have done. You took the data out and we actually printed into HTML and .txt. Now the next thing we're going to look at is how we can save this to also another file called the .csv file. That is more useful even than this when you're doing data management, because CSV files are useful for managing data, because that's basically an Excel file. So if I want to make an Excel file with this data, it's pretty simple, right? Just like here, I have an employee.csv file, which I will be using next. For now, why don't we output this get processes into .csv file? To do that, it's very easy. Again, you do get dash processes and process and get dash process commandlet, and then you're gonna use the pipe, and you're gonna go convert to, and instead of HTML, I'm gonna do CSV. So now it's gonna take that information, you're gonna convert to a CSV file, and then that can be used to then do different things. So again, you can put CSV here, and then you can go processes.csv. Let's see if this thing works. I think it should work. Oh no, it doesn't work. Clear. There you go, I made a mistake. So the reason why this didn't work, because remember in here we need to pipe this into out dash file. Now processes, enter, it'll work. See, it created a a processes.csv file. So if I'll open it, oh, it's still working. I think it's still working on right now. So it's still working. So that's why it says 0 kilobyte. I just had to wait it to load. Again, this may be a little bit processing intensive. Oh, there you go. It's done. So if I go CSV file, if I open it, there you go. You have the information here about the different company name. I have a whole bunch of other information. Handle, it's sometimes usually a company name, and that all the information now get fed into a .csv file. So just like that. I just also want to point out the reason why I got the error message last time. I just saw if I just want to experiment if this thing actually works. It doesn't work. You need to get the output of processes, put it into the input of convert CSV, then take that output and put it into out file commandlet, and then press processes. Because if you don't do that, it doesn't know this is the out file I'm asking for. So that's what I did a few seconds ago. It's I'm just experimenting. If I press this right now, for example, it's just going to display the whole CSV file on my terminal, which is again useless if you don't copy and paste this whatever showing up on your screen onto a CSV file. You don't need to do this. Only thing you need to do is use that commandlet. Use this line of command to get directly onto the CSV file. You don't want to display this on your screen. This is a mess. So just do that, and that will get you a CSV file. Now, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to clear the screen. I want to show you what you can do with importing data. So we export a whole bunch of data, CSV file, .txt file, .html file. What if I want to import data from a file that already exists, whole bunch of data? For example, I have this file called the employee.csv. Okay, what if I want to import this data, right? So for example, if I open this file, let's see what's in there first. So I have name listed here, and I have about 1,000 employees. I believe 1,000 employees. This is a fake document, by the way, I created. I have 1,146 employees, 1,100 employees. I have the rank, score, J score, cumulative, M score, variance, bonus, project scope, difference. Look, these are all fake numbers. Okay, these are fake names, fake numbers. Don't ask me like, what is this table? What is this telling us? Nothing. It's basically telling you nothing. It's just junk. But you may be working with real data, such as statistical data for your company or some kind of operational data for your company, and you need to use PowerShell to figure these things out. So there are a bunch of numbers here, such as the rank and score and JScore. It doesn't really matter. What matter here is it is in the .csv format. We also know this because look at this possible data loss, and it said this is in the CSV format. If you try formatting this, such as making them bold and highlight and etc., and saving them, it'll may mess up your CSV file. So that's why he's saying don't mess around. So this is a CSV file that we're going to work with. There's hundreds of thousands of data and information contained within this file. There are different columns and etc. Now I want to import this to my Windows PowerShell. So that's a CSV file, employees.csv, and I'm going to import it. So how can I do that? Well, we can create a variable and attach that variable here, right? So that's the easiest way to do this, because then I can use that variable to do other things. Otherwise I had to keep typing like that every single time I want to do something. I had to do this and then go format table, etc, etc. Why don't I put this into a variable, right? So I'm going to create a variable. Remember, from my previous tutorials, you can create PowerShell variable with the $sign and then followed after the variable name. After that, you follow the variable name, right? So it's going to go employee data or data, and this is going to be my variable. Why? Because I decided that way. It doesn't really matter. So how can we import everything in this employees.csv file into our PowerShell variable here? Well, we can use the equal sign right here. So that's an operator. And then we're going to go import CSV. Remember, that's the CSV is a file that can be imported. So this is a commandlet that exists. So we're gonna take import -csv commandlet output and store it in here, but it needs to have a path. So the path of the file here gonna be employees.csv. Remember, I can use the tab as long as this file exists. If I put emp, because there's nothing else here, emp, starting with emp, and if I press tab, it shows up. And if I press enter, if you don't get any error messages, that means this has been now saved to employee data. Hey Sanuja, I'm not sure if it's got saved to employee data. Are you sure? Well, we can check that. If I go employee data and press enter, oh, look at that. It is displaying everything in that .csv file on my terminal. So by calling in employee data variable, which has my CSV file, I can pull all the data. For example, Buddhika here has a rank of 1145 and have all of this data associated with that Buddhika. Is this correct? If I open my employee data file, if I go to the bottom of this file, look at that. Buddhika here has 1145 rank and 12.18 for whatever the column D. If I go in here, 12.18 right here, Buddhika's J score is 12.18. So that means by using using our this import -csv and putting it into this variable, I have took all this data from the .csv file and put it into that variable, so we can manipulate it in the PowerShell now. So I'm going to actually close this. So all of this data is columns. These are columns on the .csv file, and this is the data associated with it, and and it is in the employee data variable, because that's we use this we use this thing there. So I'm going to go like this so it's very clear for you to see. We use that to to get that information stored into that variable. It's in this variable, so now we can just simply call that variable. It will show up. Now it just shows up as a list. This is actually a list because the variable default is now set to a list. So by default, it's just going to show up like this. Let's say I don't like that. I want as a table. Can I use the table format table? Yes, you can. So I'm going to clear the screen here so it's easy for you to see. So this shows up as a list. That's what you saw a few minutes ago, a few seconds ago. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, I'm going to pipe this into our format table commandlet, and if I press enter now, what that's going to do, it's going to show me as a table. Look at that. Now it's a table. If you go to the top, you can see it has a name, rank, score, J score, cumulative, M score, variance, bonus, project, and scope. Look at that. It has Kasun, Indika, Jackson, Moore, everybody in the order in which the which the CSV file is entered, and all the data shows in a nice table now, because now I have took the output of employee data, pipe into the format table, and now I get a table as a result. Now you can do a lot more with this. You can do a lot more with this because now the information is listed in this variable from that CSV file that we have imported. Instead of doing the table, we can also do we can filter out certain things from it. Like for example, if I do employee data and then if I put pipe and I'm going to do get dash member. Okay, because remember, all variables and objects in Windows PowerShell has members. Most of the time, sometimes maybe one member, sometimes there may be no members too, but typically there are members. So if I press enter, it's going to list all the members associated with it. So there are members such as the bonus, cumulative, different, J score, M score. What are these actually? What are these members? Look at the member name. You don't need to worry about definition and stuff like that. Just this is giving some examples and stuff. This is that Boolean, like the type. It's a Boolean or a string, etc. So what are these? These are actually column headers. So these name, rank, score, J score, cumulative or cum, MS score, variance, etc. So the name, rank, score, J score, cum, MS score, M score, variance, bonus, etc., etc. score. All of these are members of my variable employee data. So when I put employee data pipe into get member, it just lists the members there. So why is this important? Because now we can sort all of this data with all these names, the Kamal, Corey, Chandana, Anuradha, Buddhika, everybody in this list. Now I can actually go ahead and use these members to, do more things with it, sort data with it, because there's a ton of data here, right? Let's say I don't want all of them. So let's go let's take that variable employee data. Remember, this variable has all my CSV data that we have imported into the Windows PowerShell. So it's stored in this variable. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that employee data and let's sort, remember, by a property. And what do you have for properties? We have base object, immediate object, members, methods, properties, type name, base, these are the ones that shows up when you going with the tab. But we know that we have these things such as rank, because that's a name. That's one of the objects. That's one of the members in here. It doesn't show up when you do this. I mean, it does, some of them actually, but not all of them. So you can actually sort using that. So for example, I want to sort by rank and I press enter. So now everybody is sort by the rank. And you're gonna say, wow, so the ranking method, they actually use the rank as a tool. See, it's 999, 998, etc., etc., to get the information here. Yeah, that's correct. The information, everything is listed. All the data is now listed by the rank. So as you can see, it's all the rank. As you go up, the rank, rank number changes, etc. So it's just gonna get displayed based on the rank. So if I clear that, so that's that's a way that we can use a property. You can put this rank data sorting by rank, and we can put it into format table. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna go format. There you go. Now you actually listed everything. Sort by rank, because remember, Buddhika is not the last name anymore, because original one we had Buddhika. So the key is the last name now, and it is actually listed based on the ranks, and then you have listed as such. So right there, but now you have it in the table format. Let's do more with it. I want to do it by rank. I want to format it into the table, but I also want to have another switch. Remember, you can have multiple switches. So you're going to put property. I can go name. And if I press enter, now what happened, it just basically took the rank and it just, listed by, listed everything by just the name. Notice that the table is gone now. Why is that happen? Because reason that is, it took the output of this, sorted by the property and put it into a table format, and again it's user switch name, and it decided it doesn't have the table format request anymore, so it just dumped that whole information by name. So now I have all the names dumped here, and it doesn't have it doesn't have that format again. Do you want to format again as a format table? You can do that. It's format table. You can do that, but the thing is there is nothing to show here. Why didn't the format table didn't work here? Because reason for that is, even because I have sorted this thing so many times here, it doesn't have data to show it in a table. So if you request something in PowerShell in format table and it just display a list, that means there is no table at this point, because it has done so many iteration of changing things. There is nothing to format into a table, so that's why it just shows name. So I can do, for example, instead of name, I can do JSCO, and it just listed the JSCO. I can go do something else. I can do rank. Rank. We already did rank. So you can do listing like that. Remember, if there's not enough data to make a table, it's not going to create a table. So what if I do a name and comma JSCO? Can you do that? JSCO, because remember that's one of the items we have here. How do I know the JSCO exists? Remember, you can get dash get member, and remember we have the JSCO, so right here. So what we can do is we can use this. I'm gonna use name and JSCO. What is JSCO? I don't care, but it's just a data, right? So I'm gonna use JSCO, one of the member, and the name, another member. Now if I press enter, there you go. So I have the name and the JSCO listed here. So you can have more, like you can have JSCO rank. So why don't I do that? There you go. We have JSCO, name, JSCO, and rank listed in that order, because that's the order I asked for, right? See on the table at the top. So now there is enough data to show a table, because remember, and when I just ask for a name, it doesn't have enough data to show a table. Now it has enough data to show a table. So you have name, JSCO, rank. So I have all three listed as a table now. That's really neat, isn't it? So now we have this information, name, JSCO, rank, for example. Can you do further? Can you do more? Right? So you're sorting by rank, but can you do more? Yeah, can you sort further? Yeah, you can. You can take the rank and you can say, hey, I want it in descending order. How do you spell descending? Oh, clear. So this came back with an error. See, even I sometimes make mistake. So let's see. So what did I do wrong here? So property. So let's take this for a moment. So we can go sort. Property is the rank, and I want the descending order. Format table. Oh, maybe let's see if I can try this. So because descending order should work. Descending. Oh, it didn't work. Okay. Oh, sort by property rank. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna check something. That's interesting. This should work actually. Employee data. Get member. Trusty little thing. These things happen sometimes. So why didn't the property rank didn't work? Let's see what the rank is. Oh, rank is 1. Oh, well, but it should work. So property, let's say instead of rank, let's say score. Yeah, it listed as score, but I want this in descending order. Uh-oh, it's a lot of data. It's almost done. Okay, that's descending order. That's nice. But I want to, sorry, it's not descending order, it's just sort by property. But I property of a score, but I want it in descending order. So maybe I misspell it. Oh, there you go, descending. I think I misspelled it. So there you go. So now it's showing us in the descending order. Now you can do this with more information. So if I go clear, so yes, the descending thing does work. It just I have misspelled it. So if I in the previous one, so if I go descending switch, but then you can pipe that into a more stuff. So you can still do format table, format dash table, and then if I press enter, now it is in descending order. So Luca in the bottom because I asked for descending order right here. And if I put S, something else instead of descending, we can go ascend. Oh, it doesn't. So descending, it's ascending. Oh. Give me 2 seconds. I have a brain dead moment here. Sorry about that. I'm misspelling stuff. So this is descending order. Obviously, that works. That's fine. But I want to do also because that Luca is at the bottom right now. But what if I want ascending order? You can do that as well. If I put ascending here instead of descending, it should work. So let's see. Ascending. There you go. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, I spell it wrong. Why is that? So let's try ascending, ascending. Oh, it didn't work. Okay. Well, this is what happened when you do live videos. So you, yeah, basically you can do the descending order by using the descending one. It should work ascending as well. I don't know why. Maybe I'm misspelling something. Okay. So CLS clear. So let's what's ascending? Oh, never mind. The ascending doesn't work. It's not like I misspell it or anything. It's just for some reason should have ascending and descending. Why is it not working? Oh, okay. I think it's a Boolean. It needs to put so right here. For some reason it doesn't work. I don't know, but it should actually work. The ascending one should work. Well, at least we know the descending one works. So descending order works just fine. But can you do the descending order? Like, let's move on. So I'm going to clear the screen. So can you do the descending order and then get format table into more property switches, right? Yeah, you can do that. You can do name, jscore, and then press enter. There you go. You just have the name and the jscore. So you don't get the whole table now. You get only name and jscore in the descending order. If I don't have that property and just this, it just gives additional columns that I can use. Now, what if I want to select something out of this, right? I want to select something out of that. Can you do that? Yeah, you can. So let's use descending, all this stuff, and we're going to pipe that into the select. You can do that, right? which I will show you next. But instead of, you can also actually select the first object by doing this. If I put a parenthesis, because I want to take this entire command, right, entire statement, and I want that statement's location 0 to be extracted. Can you do that? Yeah. If you press enter, Holland is the guy at the location 0. Location 0 is the very top. Let me see where the table. Go up here. Look at that. Holland is on the very first. That's the 0 position. And you can actually list that right here by extracting that position. You can extract, for example, third position, which is number 2. Press enter. Banks. What's banks? Where is banks? So 1, 2, 3 banks. Banks in the third position. Remember, in computer science, typically the first position is the 0 position, and the second position is the 1, and the third position is the bank. So 0, 1. So third position is the the second second location. So that's why it's I'm pulling the third position, but you have to enter it as such, like this. Now, yeah, you can take a random number like 222, for example. It'll give you Maxwell, because Maxwell is the 222th position. Remember, you need to have these brackets properly done. Now, what else you can do with this is you can just pull 222 position, but I don't want all this data. Let's say I want the 222 position Maxwell. I want to take them out, or let's say 200, doesn't matter, 222 or whatever, right? You can do that. So you can put here and put a dot, for example, and put name, because name is one of the items in here, and press enter. It'll just give me Maxwell. If I want a third position, for example, second position, third position, sorry, yeah, second position, which is the third name. When I say 222, it's actually the 223 position. Press enter. It'll give me banks. See, so you can do a lot with PowerShell when it comes to point sorting data. Again, you can use this. Again, you can take this entire statement and you can pipe it into an out file like that, and then you can do like you can take that information of with or without that name, and you can say test.txt, and if I press enter, that will be writing that information from something like this into a text file. And if I go here, there you go, it got posted right here, banks, that information. So that's why it is a very, very powerful tool once you start writing your PowerShell code, PowerShell scripts. Okay, so I know I'm showing all of this on a terminal because you are beginner to PowerShell. You just want to learn these things first, and that's why I'm doing this. So keep that in mind. And so let's do more. Okay, I'm gonna clear the screen. So it's not just for displaying on the screen. You can do more with it, such as exiting output into saving output into a .txt file. Now let's do more with this. Let's get rid of that. So I don't need that. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use again descending. So dash, let's do dash descending, and let's select the first one. Can you do that? So if I go select dash first, first one, and press enter, that select the first one, because that's the first item in here, right? So if I go up, oh my god, okay, let's let it push. I could have kept it down. Maybe I should have kept the table format, but anyway, the first one in here is at the very top. Should be the first items. So that's why when I do select first one, it'll go Holland. Let me print this in table format first. So here's a table format again, and I want to pull the first one. And how I do that is basically select first. So the first item in that table is Holland, and it's select the first one. If you go to the table at the top, the first one is Holland. Hey, it picked the right one. You can also do select first 10. So this is the first 10 in that table. Holland, Wang, Banks, Santos, Curtis, Person, Travers, all of these guys, Pina, all of these guys are the first 10 people on that, on that table. So where's the table? Oh, right here. So the basically it picks the first 10 right here, and then it's listed them. You can format this into a table, can you? Yeah, you can. So you can go the first 10. I'm going to clear the screen because I'm on the bottom of it. So instead of listing like that, you can actually format this into a table. So you can do again the same thing over and over. I'm just drilling into your head so you can pipe that into format table. There you go. These are the first 10 of people. So you can they also do format table. Then you can do property name. Why not? So you got the table. You just extracting the table, just the property name. You don't want all of them. And you can do more with it. Like you can do highest and the lowest and etc. etc. You can do for loops. You can iterate through this. You can do a lot with this data that you have put it into this variable now. Can you do last 10? Let's try that. Yeah, it can do last 10 as well. So Lucas is the last 10. Again, you can do last instead of first 10, you can do last 10, and then say format table. Press enter. That's the last 10. So that's the last 10, and this is the first 10. So from out of that, this is the last 10 I pulled out, and this is the first 10 I pulled out. And so there are ways to take it, like take data out from this list, this type of data. And that's a bunch of different ways of doing it. I just want you to know how to do it, know how these things exist. Having said that, you can also do like for loops and while loops. For example, you can take the output of this, which is like a huge data table, right? Remember, it has everybody's names and everything. The Buddhika is nowhere on the bottom anymore. They're in somewhere in here because I have sorted these things already from previous one, but the original one still has the Buddhika at the bottom, Anura at the bottom, for example, right, before sorting it, because these things are sorted, right? So that's why it's the first 10 this didn't include, last 10 didn't include Buddhika. Remember that whenever you are in PowerShell, whatever you do here does have an impact. So let me get that. So this sorting is the one that doing here before that, but you can do a lot more with this. So if I go clear, you can also write a for loop. For example, I can do employee data, and then I can pipe that into for each, and I can go something like if we can do the rank is greater than GT, is the something else, like the highest something, and then you can write that like that. I'm not writing anything right here, and then you can basically create a for loop. It iterate through my entire table here, either it's sorted or unsorted. Then you can get that information in that order. So keep that in mind. There are a lot you can do with Windows PowerShell. I'm just giving you an introduction to Microsoft Windows PowerShell and what you can do with data manipulation in this particular tutorial, which is formatting, saving, and importing data. So again, I will go through the for loops and while loops and everything in a different lecture. If you have any questions or concerns regarding anything I covered today, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. please make sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe to my channel. I will be creating more comprehensive, intermediate and advanced Windows PowerShell lectures in the future. So make sure to look forward to it. Unfortunately, I can do it videos every day, but I will try to do it at least 1 or 2 videos per month so that you can get some knowledge that I have. That's everything for today. If you have any questions or concerns regarding anything I covered today, more than welcome to leave a comment below and I will try to get to you as soon as possible. I'll try to post few more PowerShell, introduction to PowerShell tutorials in the next coming weeks. Unfortunately, due to my busy schedules, it may be a video or 2 per month. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel and thumbs up this video. Until next time, thank you so much and have a nice day.